Welcome, everyone, to the Overseas Famous podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Owens. Now, very fun. Alex Bentley is with us today. Alex played in the WNBA, played overseas, a huge name in women's basketball, a huge name in basketball in general. So Alex, also with this intro, now put a lot of money into an investment into Loot Mogul, which we're going to talk about as well. And we're very excited to have you, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. So good to be here. I appreciate you with that nice welcoming warm up. Thank you. And yeah, I'm excited.
No, so we try to show, a lot that goes on behind the scenes of overseas basketball. And I think the big thing that everyone's talking about right now, Brittney Griner wrote the letter to the White House recently, which is absolutely crazy to me that there's a letter to the White House and people are just kind of like, nah, she's been detained for days and months and coming on, half a year. And it just seems like no one's really stepping up. And I know when they started the trial that people are saying like the crime that whatever she had on her was such a small amount. And it's like, it's just a fine, but this is almost becoming something else. So is it a problem that this is not a bigger deal? Is it a problem that, this is not something that's the top story on the news every day?
Yeah, absolutely. I would 100% say it's a problem. I mean, even for us personally, knowing BG, it's still unbelievable. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's hard to grasp that, she's a wife, she's a, daughter, she's a friend, she's an incredible and amazing basketball star. Like it's definitely a problem. More light needs to shine on this problem, on this issue. And it's more unbelievable that, nobody's really talking about it, right? That's the most saddening part about everything, right?
Yeah.
But Lord willing, she'll be home soon. I mean, something has to give at some point, right? It's just too crazy.
I think you hit it on the head. The fact that this is not a bigger deal, that this is not such a huge story. I mean, her coach put out the whole thing talking about, if this was LeBron, shit would be done by now. Like he would have been home months ago. It would have been handled. It would have been taken care of. And because because Brittney is not, this mega star in the world of all of sports, it's almost glossed over.
I mean, I would argue that she is though as well, right? I mean, it's hard to find a person who, you say the WNBA that doesn't think of Brittney Griner.
Yep. She was the original, I mean, I know Lisa did it, but like she was the original that really brought that dunking back. Like, her in high school going up and dunking and everyone's like, whoa, her doing the same thing in college. She really brought that presence of that big, I always say big man, and I feel like it's like one of those phrases that we all say, like big man.
Right.
And then if you say big woman, you're like, whoa, what are you saying right now?
Right. No.
But she brought that back to the game where she had that strong post presence. She could run the floor. She can do a lot of great things. She can shoot the ball.
It's not even only, what she can do on the court, right? It's also about who she is as a human being, as a person, right? So as I said before, I mean, it's unbelievable how it hasn't gotten as much, like you said, clout in the, in the news articles and whatnot. But I think it's just a matter of time.
I'm hoping, like you said, this issue resolves itself very quickly and we can get this over with.
Absolutely.
And your experience, because that's something that we as players who played overseas too, we look at it and we're like, oh shit. Like it's not something where we are shocked. And that's ridiculous. Like we weren't shocked that something like this happened because it's the Wild West, it's lawless. So things like this can happen. Have you ever been in a situation where you're a little, especially traveling. I always thought about that. I lost my bag. I was like, did I do something illegal? There's
Right.
always something weird. Have you ever encountered something with your travels that you were like, this is not right? This is
You
not going
know,
to go well?
I've never really done that, but like, just for instance, we're on this topic. So, for example, like riding in a taxi, right? Like riding in a taxi or something like that, or getting those Ubers overseas, right? There's always that like, man, like I'm really overseas right now. If something happens, it's going to be a pretty sicky situation, right? It's not going to be the
Yeah,
same as something happening in the States where I'm more
yeah,
familiar with, you know. So those things definitely pop into your head from time to time. But you know, it's like the norm. It's the norm for us.
yeah.
Just going over every year. For me personally, doing it 9 years, you know, I mean, it's the norm. And praise God, I've been able to be blessed not to have any incidents go down in my day. So, but obviously, this is something just it's truly unbelievable.
Yeah. I definitely agree. There is times when I felt like there was like a 50% chance that I was going to make it out of this alive. And it was in those situations where I'm just riding in a cab and I'm
Yeah,
going to a place I don't know where I'm going. I'm
right,
going away from the only place I knew where I was. And you're
right.
just going, it's like just walking into the woods and being
Yeah.
trusting that everything's going to be okay. It's just
No,
it's a
exactly.
different situation. There's a
Yep.
lot of things that people don't look at when you go into that overseas route where you just kind of like, all right, you have to trust them because
Yeah.
you're by yourself. It's you and that's pretty much it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I know we've talked on the show about this, but the a lot of the topics that have been brought up with BG
Mhm.
and everything is the fact that people are starting to see how much more women athletes have to work than men
Mhm.
because you play the WNBA season and then you're overseas. And then you come back from overseas and you're right into the WNBA season and then you're
Wow.
overseas. And it's just a
Year round.
grind. It's
Yeah.
nonstop. And people don't understand that. I think that's why people are like, what was she doing in Russia in the first place? And we're like, well, here's the thing. This is what you make over there. This is what you make here.
Exactly.
Do the math.
Exactly.
If
Yeah.
that's up, yeah, God.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, people don't get that we play year round. It's really funny to me. I mean, it's crazy how I have to explain, right, what my career looks like compared to what the NBA players look like,
Mm-hmm.
or even the guys who just play overseas and not in the league, right?
Yeah.
We have zero break. We have zero break. So all those birthdays, all those, you know, sometimes you get Christmas, sometimes you don't. Depends on what country you play in, right? So all those holidays, Thanksgiving, like for me, it's birthdays. Missing birthdays like absolutely sucks. Like even for me, my birthday falls in the fall when I have to go overseas, right? So I
Yeah.
don't really get to spend time with my family for my birthday and for holidays and things like this. But we're over there like for 7 months, 8 months. We're over there for over half the year, you
It's
know,
and
because
people
we
don't
can't make the same thing here in the 5 years or, you know, half the year.
and I think those are the things. And whenever something happens, I'm always on the thought process of at least, you know, this could shed some light on it. Even as horrible as this was,
Yeah.
hopefully it can help shed some light in this. And I think that's something that people are starting to wake up and see. You know,
Mhm.
I'm a professional athlete. I'm playing a full season in WNBA and I'm playing a full season overseas. And like guys overseas are still making more. Like there has to be some equality. And I think with what the U.S. women's national team have done, which has created this equal wages for both the men and the women's national team, there has to be some spotlight put onto the grind that women basketball players endure because it's way worse than anything else.
Yeah.
I think about it myself. I'm like, my summers were always spent chilling, like working on my game, but like taking a break from the
Yeah.
grind and not having that. And you're like you said, you can only play for a certain period of time. So if that certain period of time is spent every year, you're just back and forth, back and forth. It's really rough. It's really rough
Absolutely.
mentally and physically on you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's about longevity, right?
Hmm.
right? So for us, we're pounding, grinding full out, like because you can't take a break. You can't take, where are you going to take a break? Not going to take a break in the league, and you're not going to take a break overseas, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's just not how we're wired. So just think of how much longer we could play as
Yeah.
well, right? If we're not pounding our bodies throughout the year, every day.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine. They always say too, there's all these studies. I know, college coaches have come out and said that, we don't want our players, we don't recruit players that play like one sport. And you're right. Like when you have that, because I'm sure it's the same thing in high school. Like you're now high school, college, for women's athletes, it's tough because high school, college, you're on that grind all the time. There's AU, you're playing year round. College, it's like you're working out year round. Then you go and you start becoming professional, and it's like actual year round. I
Mm-hmm.
just think when you're there, I know, I was watching the clip of the Duke coach yesterday talking about, you know, it's going to continue being hard. Like you don't get used, like easy's not going to come. So just get used to doing things and understanding that it's going to be hard, and get used to the hard, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But for women's basketball, I mean, it's tremendous, and that's why I'm fascinated when I talk to, a prestigious player like yourself, because you've done things that men haven't been able to do, that men aren't doing. So I give you so much credit for the ability to play 2 seasons of the same sport and dominate both seasons. It's incredible. And one of them being overseas, which we'll get into.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
No, it's been incredible. So you've, been around France, Turkey. You played in the Russian league. You actually play for the national team, national team of Belarus,
Mm-hmm.
which is incredible. How did that become? Because I understand how it becomes, but mainly for the peons that are listening to the podcast. Like
It's all
how
good.
did how did that become where you became a naturalized citizen of Belarus and were able to play on their national team?
Honestly, you have to speak to my agent on that. I always direct it to him. He loves me.
It's so
Yeah, talk to my agent on that one. But no, I love playing for the Belarus national team. Obviously before, everything has gone down. And even now, I mean, I still have teammates there that I talk to all the time, ask them about, what's going on with them, their families, how they're doing. But yeah, Belarus national team has treated me incredibly. I've been playing with them for, I think we're going on 5 years now. So it's been a roll. We've been doing some things in Eurobasket and whatnot. And I got a good team. I got a good team. So they've treated me well, and hopefully I've been able to repay them and helping them with representing for their national team.
how important. I look at a lot of, and there's a lot of selfishness in this question because I have a daughter and I played pro ball. So your father, played pro football and was a tremendous player. So that work ethic, because and listen, sometimes I almost ask questions just selfishly because I'm trying to figure out like how I can, steer her in the right mental path.
Love
Was that something that was instrumental when you were growing up to kind of have that, to be like, okay, this is this person, he's done that, I'm going to listen, I'm going to do this. What are those things that you kind of took from his experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as a kid, right, I'm growing up knowing that this dude played, professional football. He's been in the trenches, he's grinded his way to get where he is, right? So that's always been instilled in me. I think, well, I didn't grow up with my father through like my teenage years and things like
Mhm.
that, but I did have my pops, who was my stepfather, and he also he was just, and he loves basketball, right? So it's funny because my dad, like, he would get us into like everything, right? He just, figure out what we like, figure out where we want to play. Da, da, da. My pops, literally, he just played. He's basketball. Like, I'm always we go with him up to the YMCA. He's playing like, those runs with the older dudes and everything. That's how I started playing, right? I was playing with old grown men, literally, like getting like pushed down to the floor at the Y and everything, just like on the, outside playing on those courts and stuff with them, getting scraped up. I freaking loved it.
Hmm.
I fell in love with the game. I had both of them, which was incredible for me to have, a professional, someone who's did it before, someone who I wanted to go do that, and then someone who is in love with the same game I'm in love with. So just having both of them, guide me and help me out to where I am today has been incredible. And I think what was instilled in me was not only my work ethic, but also like my confidence.
Hmm.
Just, having that mindset going out there, like nobody can stop me. I mean, I don't care if it's LeBron on the court, like I'm still about to beat you. I don't care who it is.
Hmm.
Right. So that confidence and that work ethic was always instilled in me by both of them, which was great.
That's always the key, because when you have the talent, but you don't have the mentality, you have the
Mm.
talent and the mentality, and that's those are what makes those players great. And even like some of the criticism that WNBA players, that NBA players get, that they're
Mhm.
not that killer because they didn't win
Mhm.
a championship. I'm like, guys, one team wins a championship. And I was talking
Yeah.
about Steph Curry and just like his ability. I was talking to a guy who plays for the Celtics, and he's like, he just doesn't stop moving. Like he's just so he's must be the best conditioned athlete, because he's just running on a full sprint for 48 minutes a game, and Marcus Smart can't stay in front of him.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So when you have that, not only are you in love with the game, not only do you have the physical tools, but having that mentality to be like, you can't stop me. That's something that is that something you think is taught, or it's just something that you start picking up based on the situation that you're in?
I think it's a little bit of both, man. I really
Hmm.
do. I think it's a little bit of both. For your daughter in mind, I think that, yeah, absolutely, you can instill that in her and help her, um, with having that killer mindset, right?
Yeah.
Plant the seeds now, right?
Yeah.
So that
I'm taking
she's
notes right now, just so we're
plant those seeds now, not like overly, overbearing or anything, but you know how it is. You know how she
yeah.
cherishes you, looks up to you, right? So you know how to plant those seeds for her. But I think that's definitely um, what happened with both my dads, with my pops
Yeah.
and my dad, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So taking us overseas, you've been in really tremendous competition. When
Mhm.
you play overseas, do you see, because the WNBA almost shifts overseas, like the most part everyone just goes overseas. Was it very familiar, even though you're in a different country, because you'd be playing the same people, or you'd see that person and be like, oh, that, or you'd be on the same team with someone that was it something that made it more made the transition easier?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely, obviously, I mean, having another American period on your team or within the vicinity, it makes 100, like a huge difference on
Hmm.
your experience, your overall experience there, right? Because as I said before, we're not over there for 1 month, 2 months. We're there for like 7 months, man, at least, right? I mean, I would say the average is about 6.5 months or whatever. But people go there. You can go from 7 to 8 months. So you're over there for a long time. So not having an American there to like help you, connect a little bit with something you're familiar with. I mean, that's tough, right? And I've been in those
Yeah.
situations before too. But I have been blessed to be able to have great teammates every year overseas. I think the hardest transition for me was really on the court. My first couple years overseas, I was almost terrible. It's just like from coming from the league to go overseas, it's just a completely different style of play for the women's game and for men's as well. But it was just I had my style of play, right? And it's like I'm a point guard, I'm a combo guard. I know what I can do, I know what I'm supposed to do. I come overseas and they're like, no, it's okay. Like everybody touch the ball, everybody pass. You don't have to go one on one. You don't have to pull up in transition just because you're open. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to do all that. It's okay. So for me, my hardest transition going from the W to overseas was definitely that style of play, and it's just not as up tempo. It's not as fast,
Hmm.
right? it's still fast in its own ways, but not fast in its style.
Yeah, that was really leading into my next question, because that is when you have the whole entire, there's so much transition that is involved.
Yeah.
And to go from the WNBA directly to overseas and then back to the WNBA, it's like flip flop, flip flop. You're constantly having to adapt.
Yeah.
So your adaptability overseas, really, that's what makes or breaks you. And you said, I've done the same thing. I've gone to countries and been like, what the fuck is, like, what is this? This sucks. And I hate this. And I'm not playing well because it's a completely different style. And some places don't fit your style. Like, you have countries that will slow it down completely, and you can go and have 30 in one league, and then you're dropping like 12 in this league, and people are seeing your stats, and you're like, everything, your stress levels go up. So your adaptability for a woman in the WNBA playing overseas has to be tremendous to be able to adapt to that situation and that different style of play. It's incredible.
I mean, your teammates are playing differently. Your coaches are thinking differently, right? Some of the rules are different, so it's just like, it's fun though. It's definitely challenging for me. I like a good challenge. Honestly, I would say the hardest part for most women is the off the court, right? Just being away from our families, right? Not having those familiar foods, not having, the language, you're right.
Yeah.
Nobody speaks English. Yeah. So that's always so funny to me. Like on those Christmas breaks, or whenever our break is to go home, like you finally get to like that New York airport or Miami airport or wherever you're coming from, and you sit down and you're like, oh my gosh, like I hear English. Like it's English. Wow, I'm back home. It's crazy. It's like a light bulb. So I'm not over there anymore. It's crazy, but it's like, I also do appreciate, right? And I know for sure you have appreciated all the experiences that you've had overseas as well. Just like being, fully submerged in those cultures and those new languages and those new foods, right? Just those mindsets. It's really cool, man. I feel like it all like just makes us more well-rounded at the end of the day. But that's me.
I complete that flying back, and I feel like everyone flies back to New York. It's like that's the pretty basic
so
when you're coming back
so
from
fast.
go to New York and then go wherever you're going.
Exactly.
But that I remember that New York airport, because I was at the same thing, not in the same place. There's different language, and I remember walking off the plane, and it was the craziest thing because people were arguing like down below when I'm walking through the little tunnel. I'm getting off the plane, I'm walking, and there's people arguing because it was snowing, and they were like yelling at each other and like cursing each other out. And I was like, oh my God, it's so nice. It was just a weird thing. I was like, how in the world am I so excited to hear two people about to fight and like cursing each other out? But it's like they're speaking my language. I'm like, I'm home. This is great.
Exactly. I feel it.
Yeah, it's a different world over there. But when you head overseas, and you're off the court, are there things that you, when you look at, the food, the challenges, things like that, have you ever had like, friends or people visit and you almost become that expert once you're kind of through that situation? Now you become the expert and people come over and be like, oh, check this out. And you sit there and say like, order your dinner, and people are like, holy shit, this is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been blessed to be able to have my parents come out. They've actually been to Russia, so that was really cool. They've also been to Israel. But yeah, it's definitely nice going from like the tourist to be like the tour guide in a foreign country. It's definitely pretty cool. You get there, you learn. Again, my teammates overseas have always been incredible. So I usually, get pretty acclimated with ease because of them. They help a lot. But yeah, it's always nice showing the folks around for sure. A freaking foreign country, yeah.
So let's go, before we get into the Loot Mogul thing. I want to hit you with what are you watching overseas? Are you streaming? Like, what services do you have? Do you have Netflix, Hulu? Do you have them all?
Yeah, absolutely. I get caught up on everything overseas. That's all I do.
It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, come on, we're already, you could be doing 2 days, you're working hard,
Yeah.
the time, for me with the time zones and stuff, like my sleep is always constantly off. So I'll be up
Mhm.
at like 4 a.m. watching some Netflix or something like that. Like it saves us, man. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to have that entertainment, just have that alone time to, you know, rejuvenate, get
Yeah.
it together,
It's
relax.
it gives that American view as well. It gives you that American culture as well. I
Yeah.
feel like like Stranger Things. Is
Yeah.
that okay? Good. Are you
Oh,
caught up?
absolutely.
Oh hell yeah, yes.
I'm over
It's
here. I'm saving the last episode that they just brought out for like a watch party.
all right, good. I won't say anything. But
Yeah, don't
I'm
tell me.
no that but that's my favorite aspect of it is
Mhm.
you're still involved. That being able to have that technology, you're still involved in the American culture because that's what everyone's talking about on social media. And social media having that, still having that access to American culture and being
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm checking it, I'm watching the same thing you are, I'm watching the same thing you are.
Mhm.
That's got I feel like that gives some levels of comfort. Because I'm thinking back when I played. I mean, I retired in like 2011, 2012.
Mhm.
So Netflix didn't exist. Netflix was like you would get the
Yeah.
I would get a DVD and then I would mail it, give it to the postman, and he'd mail it out. And then like 3 days later, a new DVD would come. Like, oh, sweet.
Ooh.
Like
Yeah.
that's old school, old school.
I know. No, I hear the stories about like the older heads used to have to, literally write letters, like get letters sent from home and like I'm just like, I already know I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have it all. I mean, even the little things like you're talking about Netflix and stuff. I get like NBA League Pass, NFL
Uh,
like League Pass. The best times that I have is when I know a freaking football game just happened, then I'm gonna go home and watch it after practice. Like I'm just like,
it's the best.
yes, back home, Sunday night football on Monday, but it's cool. Let's get it. You know what I mean?
Yep, that it does. It gives you that sense. But there's nothing better than
Mhm.
being in another country and being able to watch your team. Like
Yeah.
I'm an Eagles fan. I'm like a Philadelphia
Okay,
fan. So
Philly.
like checking out watching the Eagles and stuff. I remember I've watched like the Super Bowl in a hotel in like Columbus, Georgia, when they were in the Super Bowl back in like the day. It's just, but that's what
Yeah.
I feel like. It gives you that sense of relief that you still have that like little bit of home to hold on
Mhm.
to.
Oh, absolutely. It helps a lot.
So let's go into this Loot Mogul because you've done some pretty incredible stuff, and throw 40K to build your own, to build your own arena, have your own this because you've been involved in like the NFT and like been involved in stuff where you're looking to expand. So why this metaverse? What is it about Loot Mogul that you find so fascinating?
Um, it's literally the first sports athletes, like professional athlete influenced, right? So that's unheard of, right? So I mean, just the mindset, the ideas, the creativity of my partners behind Loot Mogul and everything that they're doing and accomplishing, like it hasn't been done before. They've just set the stage to become, the leading platform in the sport for sports athletes, sports enthusiasts,
Mm-hmm.
fans, right? To be able to go somewhere where we can all engage with each other. And I think that's just super cool, right? Because as professional athletes, a lot of us want to give back.
Mm-hmm.
We're searching for ways to support our communities. We're searching for ways to help provide more for our families and give to those in need or whatever it is that God has put it on us to do. So for me, just being able to engage with fans and being able to, you know, put smiles on their faces or help them out or do what like I think that's just so cool, right? I
Yeah.
think it's so awesome, and obviously, technology where it's going, this metaverse, this industry, just the opportunity, man, the possibilities are endless, and I really believe in Loot Mogul and what they're doing and what they're about to accomplish and what they already have accomplished. And yeah, so that's why I signed on, and I'm excited to be a part of the brand. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's incredible. And I've heard this so many times just with like different ventures. when I retired, I kind of, you become an entrepreneur. There's different things that I'm doing. And there's so many things about being into an industry that doesn't exist. Like you are actually creating an industry. And that's what those big time successful people do. They create their own industry. They create like an entire branch of something that might exist, but they're making it completely their own. And like you said, Loot Mogul is creating that, like this brand new interactive thing with athletes, which I think is just like incredible. So my question to you is, what advice do you have for those young athletes that, are on the fence about something like Loot Mogul, or something about like Metaverse, or something about NFTs? Because some people are like, what is this? What is it even? And I thought it was a great example. And Corsley actually told me this. He's like, it's like baseball cards. He's like, you had a whole stack of baseball cards. And I was like, hell yeah, I did. And you were trading them for value and stuff, but they were pieces of cardboard. They were nothing. It was completely just like useless pieces of cardboard, and they were worth this much money. It's nothing different. So what do you say to a young athlete that's thinking about joining or becoming involved in something like Loot Mogul?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, there's just so much excitement around a company that's doing it first, right? Who's being a front runner, being, a pioneer myself, like with this company. It's just like, you want to get your foot in the door, and things like this, like opportunities like this only come knocking, not very often, right? So my pitch would be to first, obviously, like you have to educate yourself a little bit on this stuff. You have to research a little bit more about cryptocurrency, about NFTs, about the metaverse, to try to wrap your head around what exactly it is, like Corsley said with the trading cards. But then it's basically, have you seen Ready Player One?
I have. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So Raj actually gave me this idea too, because it resonates with me. I'm a movie buff. So Ready Player One, I love Ready Player One. It's like one of my top like 10 movies of all time. It's incredible. So it's like Ready Player One. You see these things, they're tangible, right? Physically, and we're basically making things tangible digitally, right? And we can trade things. You do whatever. The sky's the limit. But I don't know. My pitch isn't very good right now, but it will.
No, I love. Trust me, I'm like,
it'll be better.
It was incredible because
it's definitely hard to explain, right? It's definitely hard to explain, but once you get and grasp the concept, then it's easier to.
I 100%, like you said, I think the biggest thing is having guys and girls do their own research. Check this out. This is, do your research and see that this is the first of its kind. It's going to revolutionize, even sports interacting with athletes. I mean, you have social media, but let's face it, if you're sending like just a regular fan and you're sending a message to you on Instagram, chances are it's going to end up in that like non-primary mailbox, and there's like thousands of messages, and you're just like, what? It's mostly spam, and you're like, all right, you just end up deleting it all. That's unfortunately the long and short of it, and people get mad, but that's what it is. So when you have something where you're actually able to talk and interact and play games with, stars like yourself, it's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just look at the metaverse and what's coming as the next internet, right? Next internet.
I love it. So going back into your WNBA career, you made an All-Star. You were in a WNBA All Star, and something like that. I don't know. There has to be a level of confidence that now you'll have for the rest of your life, because there's no one who can ever take that away and be like, I was a WNBA All Star. Like, you could be 70 years old and they'll be like, oh my gosh, and you'll be like, I was a WNBA All Star, and you're like, here, I'll do whatever. It's such a great title. When you went through and you got that All Star bid for the first time, what was your feeling? What was your experience when you found out, got the call that you were an All Star?
Yeah, man,
I mean, you were killing all year. So but
Thanks.
what was that like?
It was incredible, man. Just such a blessing. I mean, I have wanted to play the game of basketball. I've known that I wanted to be a professional athlete since 5 years old, right? So just growing up, being able to grow up in the backyard of the Indiana Fever, watching Tamika Catchings do her thing, like watching Katie Douglas do her thing, and then watching everybody else come in from the different cities doing it. Like I grew up literally loving the game. Obviously, one of my goals and most of our goals are to be the best and greatest we can be. So all stars upon them, right? Championships are upon them. So just being able to hit that milestone and hit that goal was absolutely. I mean, it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. Full circle moment for sure. And being able to share that with my family was really really cool.
The WNBA is talking about expansion. I mean, I'm pushing. I'm on social media talking about the Philadelphia needs WNBA team,
Yeah.
pushing for expansion because with the, I mean, I always talk about playing professional basketball and having a career. People are like, why is Udonis Haslam still like? Why give him a contract? Just make him a coach. And I'm trying to explain to people like, listen, he's a player and he can do things. Once you switch to the coaching side, the relationship changes. Like you're a coach now. Like you don't have that same intimacy or that ability to talk to the guys or girls like you did before.
Right.
So when you have that longevity in professional basketball, it's incredible because every year there's thousands and thousands of people coming to take your job. And then the next year there's thousands. And to be able to hold on to that is so huge. And the WNBA expansion is so big because there is constantly such turnover and, big name player. It's tough to stay in the league when there's constant turnover. And even like, I feel like there's like a top college star because everyone's watching the NCAA tournament, a top college star and all these college girls come in and they're like, oh my gosh, this is this. I saw them here. It's like they almost push out players that might be better, but they're like, that potential, and plus they might bring in more people, they might sell more tickets.
Right.
So with the WNBA expansion, is that something that you're rooting for to kind of be able to have this huger talent pool of athletes being in the WNBA?
I mean, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. 12 teams, and that's all you get. I mean, there's only 154 spots. So it's like, yeah, absolutely. It needs to be expanded. It's past due, for the expansions. But with that expansion, I'm hoping to see the W put the money where it needs to go in order for more players, more talented players, more skilled players to represent the league as they ought to be able to.
I love that. You have so much experience, both overseas in the WNBA. You're a very well-rounded athlete, and now you're involved in this. When you signed on to Loot Mogul, was this something too that you're thinking about, like for the future, for your future, not just during your playing career, but like beyond? Is this something you're like, I can keep this going and build this post career?
Yeah, absolutely, because Metaverse is the future. So if I'm looking ahead right now, right, it's just like me putting my stocks back then into Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? When Facebook was nothing and it was just coming up, and it's the same thing that's happening right here, right now. So that's another type of pitch that I would give to these other athletes and these other ambassadors that will come along later, right? You're basically investing in $1 trillion industry. Like it's kind of hard to go wrong there with the future and where technology is going. It's pretty hard to make those mistakes with the cryptocurrency community, with the metaverse community, and where technology and where the future of technology is going right now, because it's not going to stop. We've seen it, right? We've seen it over the course of our own lives. Like you just said, DVDs, you had to get DVDs shipped. Now we have Netflix. You know what I mean? Just that simple example right there. It's just like technology is moving at a very, very fast pace. And in order to keep up with it, in order to capitalize on it as athletes, I think Loot Mogul is the absolute top tier company and platform to get involved with, man, for sure. Especially for us, because of also not only are they building this incredible platform, but the people behind it are also incredible in their own right. And those are the type of people that I like to do business with. People who are not only out for their own interests, but are out for the interests of all athletes, all sports athletes, all sports fanatics, right? Fans, everyone. So this platform is something incredible. I'll be telling you, 5 years from now, didn't I tell you? And so yeah, 100%. Loot Mogul, get on
it. last question. Craziest story where you were like, what in the world is happening? Like, off the court, on the court, we all have that overseas story where you're just like, I can't believe this is currently happening to me. Like, I can't believe this is where I am. It could be good, it could be bad, but like that crazy story where you're just like, what, I mean, I went to Kosovo and I'm driving driving away from the airport, and we like, all of a sudden we hit and we're starting like bumping. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I looked and we were on a dirt road. I was like, this is the capital of the country. Like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening? Like, why am I on a dirt road right now? It's the airport. It's the main airport.
Dude, Kevin, that is such a hard question. There are so many incidents. You already know, man. You already know. Obviously the most recent would be G, but I won't go there. So I'll just give you a nice little fluffy, funny one. So it was one, I'm not even going to tell you the country, not going to tell you the coach, nothing. There was one game we're about to go out and play. The strategy for the game was for the guards to defend the bigs and for our bigs to defend the guards on the other team. What? And it wasn't like everybody was smaller, everybody was big, man. Like, it was like regular, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so did we had the same. So yeah, I don't know where that strategy came from or how they came up with it, but that was very interesting. That was definitely one of those am I where I am right now type of moments. Like, what is happening? What's going on? So
overseas, I feel like some of those overseas coaches and trainers, they're always trying to reinvent the wheel. They're like, dude, because you had like a guy like Dirk or Luka who comes over and is able to be successful playing a certain style. They're like, what if we play with like our shoes on our hands? And they're like, well, fuck, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And you're like, no, it doesn't. Like, what are you talking about?
I know. Like, crazy. Could you imagine going out there and just like guarding this opposite freaking person that you're not supposed to be guarding, this player?
It would confuse you for maybe one trip down. You'd be like, what is happening? And all of a sudden, like the next time down, you're like, give me
us and them.
Well, Alex, I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate you hopping on. You have accomplished so much with your career, your personal life, an incredible role model, incredible athlete. And we're super excited that you were able to hop on today and share your stories and share your experiences with us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. You guys are doing incredible things, and I love it. All love and peace. And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. And thank you so much. Alex Bentley, this has been the Overseas Famous Podcast.